welcome back. Almost daily vlog, 2 days in a row, and that is because it is day 11 of our 12 days till Christmas. Hopefully you checked out yesterday's vlog. If you haven't, you may want to go back and watch that one first, because today's thought is kind of a follow-up to yesterday, or at least a completion. But it is the 11th day till Christmas. And yesterday, we kicked this off, this little series, 12 days till Christmas, really thinking back to a gift that was given to our family about 7 years ago. Someone dropped off a rather large box on our porch, and in it were gifts counting down the 12 days to Christmas. So we loved that. It was a sweet time. We vlogged it, and every day between now and the day one, we're gonna repost that video to show you the gift that was open, because not only is it a gift, it helps explain some of the verses to 12 days of Christmas. So you get a little history lesson, a little music lesson, and you get to see us open a gift and all our reaction to all of that. But yesterday, if you remember back to yesterday, I started it off just simply sharing why Christmas is so significant and special for us. Why, at least myself, I go crazy over Christmas. And that boils down to just the sheer gift that God gives us through His Son, Jesus Christ. That Christmas is the time that we remember and celebrate His birth as He comes to the earth through Mary and Joseph, and the whole story plays out with the angels and the shepherds and the star and the wise men and all that good stuff. And I shared that because I wanted to establish kind of where we are and where we're heading, because if we don't set the parameters, we can go all over the place. And so yesterday was all about just recognizing, one, God is our creator. He created everything. Two, we broke things. Man broke things by choosing our way over God's way, being disobedient. That brought sin into the picture. But God, because He loved us, chose to chase after us. And the birth of Christ is the beginning of His work to bring redemption. Well, not the beginning, the continuation. Say the continuation of His work to bring hope and rescue to us, His people. And so we talked about that yesterday, and I wanted to come back, and actually yesterday's video would have been a little bit longer, because I actually went into a deeper explanation and a challenge, and I cut some of that out. And so the end of the video yesterday seemed a little weirdly edited. I cut some out, but I did that because I wanted to come back and give a little better explanation, because yesterday, in just acknowledging who God is, acknowledging who Christ is, acknowledging who we are and our need for Christ, Advent, as we talked about yesterday, is part one, remembering and celebrating the birth of Jesus. But Advent part two is also recognizing that the Bible tells us that Jesus is coming again. And so Advent, which means coming, or the expected coming, points us to what the Bible says as Jesus is coming back. And so we celebrate both His birth, but we celebrate His future return. And so we start with the story of Jesus being born to get to the fact that He's going to return. And that's why I wanted to come back to today. I started sharing yesterday that there's a Christian artist, David Crowder. You may be familiar with him, you may be not. But just, gosh, we've been following David Crowder for most of his career. He used to lead worship at one of our student ministry conferences. Back then he was called the David Crowder Band. Now he just goes by Crowder. Anyhow, Crowder released a Christmas album called Milking Cookies back in late November, early December. And first of all, it's an amazing album. It's one of my favorite Christmas albums right now. It's like on constant play on my Apple iTunes. I love it. It's a great album. It's funny, and yet poignant. You need to listen to it. Anyhow, there's a song on there called I've Heard About You. And in the song, he kind of poses this question: what if it's all true? I've heard about you. I've heard about this Jesus who comes, and every Christmas we celebrate and we sing the songs and we do the trees and the gifts and all that stuff. But what if it's true? What if this is more than just a story, more than historical documented, happenings? What if who Jesus is beyond just baby, but as, you know, the one who dies on the cross for the sins of the world, if this is true, what does that mean for us? How does that impact our lives? How does it change us? And he just kind of goes through this song, kind of sharing this question of what if it's true? And I like those what if questions, and I sometimes pose them to my students. I've definitely used them in some of my preaching, where I've just kind of said to people, what if? You know, we hear it, and we may be skeptical, maybe we're not skeptical, maybe we're just like, yeah, this is not for us, whatever. But take a second and just ask yourself, what if? What if it is true? Now, if it's not true, then nothing changes, right? If Jesus is just a story, then who we are and how life is just how it is. It's the way it's going to be. We live, someday we'll die, and who knows? Okay, that's the what if it's not true. But if you ask what if it's true, and if you ask what does it mean for us, well, just if you entertain just the idea of it being true, that means you have to entertain everything that comes with it. Not just the birth story, the nativity, Jesus, the baby, Mary, Joseph, wise men, shepherds, all that. Not just that. But then you have to ask if it's true. If it's true, then that also leads us to the cross. And if that's true, then that second part of Advent, the fact that Jesus returned, well, then that also has to be true. That Jesus will return. And if that's true, and he does return, then what he says will happen when he returns, that too must be true. And so, if you keep following this train of thought here, you have to acknowledge that if it's true, then it absolutely changes everything. If it's not true, nothing changes. We live our lives, we do what we do, and we die. But if it is true, then everything else changes. Who we are changes, what we do changes, how we live changes, why we live changes, what happens to us after we live, all of it changes. And so sometimes the question is posed, you know, what if it's true? And what if, because it's true, you say, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna give it the fair look. I'm going to explore. I'm going to try to educate myself. I'm going to learn. I'm going to talk to the people who know about this stuff, and I'm going to pursue it. And I'm going to track down to see if it truly is true. Because most times when we do that, the deeper we look, the harder we search, then we just keep finding more truth. And the things that Jesus says, the things that Jesus did, and the promises that he makes, then all of those things become very real for us. And it changes everything. And so the kind of part 2 of the challenge I gave yesterday, though I don't know that I gave the challenge, I think I edited it out for time. I'm going to give it to you here. The challenge is, what if it is true? What if the things that we celebrate at Christmas time, the things that we celebrate at Easter, what if they are true? Because if they're true, then it really does mean that everything changes. And I would like to challenge you, pose this question to you. What would it mean for you to acknowledge that the things of Christ are true, that the things of God are true, that more than just a story of a baby born in a stable, more than just a Christmas tide experience? If it's true, what does that mean for you? How does that impact you? And I want to also encourage you to go listen to David Crowder's song. I'm going to link it in the description below. And if you go to today's blog post that goes along with this video, I'll have it actually embedded in the video for you to watch. And if I can find the lyrics, maybe I'll include the lyrics there as well. And I'll make sure David Crowder is linked everywhere so you can go and check out more of his music. But what does it mean? If it's true, how does it change everything? How does it change you? Are you willing to let it change you? I think sometimes we fight against the idea of Jesus simply because we're afraid that if we recognize that we need him, or that if we submit to him, that we're giving up something. And a lot of times I feel like sometimes we just don't want to give up. We'd rather fight and fight and fight and fight for what we want and refuse Jesus, when really Jesus is what we need. And if we would just surrender to him, things would be different. Things would change. So yeah, that's it. I've heard what they've said. We know the story. But what if it's true? How does it impact? How does it change who you are? Because in my world, because I believe it's true, it does. It changes everything. It changes everything about me, and I'm glad, because I would much rather be who he's shaping me to be than to be who I know I would be without him. And that's a scary person, and I don't want to be that person. I want to be the person who Jesus is shaping me to be. I want to be the person who God created me to be. So, if it's true, what does it mean? That's it. Check it out. Think about it. Pray about it. And leave your comments, questions, thoughts below. Love to dialogue and engage with you on that. So, until tomorrow, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 10. All right. Merry Christmas.